The feeling of remorse or regret as a parent. That's what I'd like to talk to you about today. My name is Colleen. I'm a parent coach and educator. And I have a few things that I want to say to you about feeling remorse and regret as a parent that I think will soothe you at the level of the heart and the mind and the soul. So, first of all, the first thing I want to say about it is that everyone feels like that sometimes. It's not just you, it's not just a few people who are bad parents. Every single parent, probably who has ever lived, has felt that feeling of remorse or guilt or regret about something they've said or done with their children, right? I wish I had done it differently. I wish I hadn't said that. It happens when we get emotionally triggered. And it happens when we're reacting, and that happens in the autonomic nervous system at the level of at a subconscious level. And so we don't even really realize what we've said or done, and it happens quickly, as you know, right? We also sometimes have regret or remorse when we learn more about parenting. Say you pick up a new book on attachment parenting or connected parenting, and you learn some new things, and you learn, gee, you shouldn't do this, this, and this, because then this happens with your child. And you look at your child and you think, wow, I did, that and that. And I can see that in my child, and you feel terrible, right? I want to remind you about a few things that I think will help you to feel better. So first of all, I already mentioned it's automatic. When you get triggered, because it's coming from the autonomic nervous system. Typically, it has to do with an experience we've had in the past that we're getting triggered, and we just couldn't stop ourselves, or there's too little space between the moment when you get triggered and your reaction, right? There's no space in between where you kind of had a conscious thought and made a conscious decision about it. And that's typical. And it's possible to do healing work around that. So that's number one. Secondly, I want to list a few things here that about the fact that feeling bad is normal. It happens to everyone. And these are the things that I believe it means. Number one, I believe it means we have a conscience. And I think that's a great thing, right? And we all make mistakes. And I'll come back to that. Secondly, I think it means that sometimes we're being perfectionistic and we're having too high of expectations on ourselves. There isn't any parent in the world who doesn't sometimes make mistakes and have regrets. Perfectionism is also really closely linked to guilt and to shame. So it's important to just kind of check that. The third thing I think it means is that we're learning, okay? So if you've just picked up a book and you're learning more about parenting, if we didn't ever learn more, we wouldn't know the difference, and we'd carry on doing the things that were potentially harmful for our kids. So learning more is a good thing. And if we still slip up and make mistakes with it sometimes, again, that's we're just being human. Number four is that we can repair. And if you haven't seen my video on that already, there's a video here on my YouTube channel, and there's also a link to that video under resources on my website. And it just has some tips for repairing. A couple of important things about repairing. I believe that it's a vital life skill. So not only does it help reconnect you with your child when you use the steps and skills for repairing, but it teaches them that important skill through your role modeling. And they also learn from watching you repair that they don't need to be perfect, that it's okay to make a mistake and then to come back and repair. It's an absolutely normal part of relationships, breaking down or fracturing sometimes, and then coming full circle and repairing. The fifth thing I think it means is that it's time to just keep practicing, right? And we can keep looking inside ourselves to discover if there's a trigger that's ready to be healed. And sometimes there is. And the last thing that I want to mention is that it's important. It's a reminder for us to practice compassion and forgiveness. So that goes back to having a conscience and this tendency to be a little bit perfectionistic or have high expectations of ourselves. When we practice compassion and forgiveness with ourselves, again, um, it's important to do it because it's the kindest, most loving thing to do for ourselves. And it's also important to do it because that's how our children learn to be gentle with themselves and to cut themselves some slack when they've made a mistake, right? So we want them to learn that. And we want to extend that to ourselves and to our partners and to all of our family members and those that we love. So that's what I have to say about remorse and guilt today, or regret. Everybody feels it. And we don't have to stay in that place. We can use it as an opportunity to do some healing work, or to practice being forgiving ourselves, or to reflect on what we can do differently to maybe to not be so triggered in the future. And again, that's probably part of working with somebody to do some healing work. So I hope that's helpful. Be gentle with yourselves. Questions or comments, pop them below, or otherwise I'll just see you next time. Thanks for listening.